Greetings, folks, and welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Coco Smooth, the Casual Collector. And in the segment of Masters of the Universe, the Masterverse collection, I am showcasing the Masterverse New Eternia Man at Arms. Yeah. Anywho, uh, I was so convinced that I was just going to go with the vintage collection on this, but then I thought about it. And again, it all comes back to He-Man being as buff as he is. And sometimes I like the idea that he's the only buff guy out of the crowd, right? That's why I kind of like the idea. Well, I mean, I'm still going to get the vintage one. But for display purposes, sometimes I just feel like I need one that's not going to be nearly as buff. Just distinguishes He-Man for being the buff dude, right? You know what I'm saying? Man, they really got to do something about that head. Anywho, yeah. So that's why I went with this. Because while I know I'm going to love the vintage version just because of for nostalgia's sake, but this whole thing's nostalgic for me in general, um, a more svelte body, smaller build, but just tall enough to match, makes sense, congruent, is a win for me, right? So, yeah. So yeah, this is what it looks like in the package so far, and it looks like they're using the head from the original art piece. So this is what I think when they did this fig, they did it in the spirit of what he looked like in the original prototype art piece versus that, right? Which looks good. You know what I mean? It's I'm glad that they have separation, different, look, so that if I decided to troop build, which if you notice on the box art, they got different, looks. I'd love to see more distinguished, like I could make difference, Eternian soldiers with different, looks, right? So they could be different soldiers, and I could have one be the real man at arms and the other just a bunch of soldiers. You know what I mean? Some more distinguished than others, right? So, well, the man at arms, heroic master of weapons. The last thing Duncan remembered was He-Man shouting, "By the power of Grayskull!" Reality cracked and all went dark. Suddenly, man at arms found himself in New Eternia, one broken and in need of repair. Interesting. That was a weird way to portray that situation, right? But yeah, New Eternia, man at arms. Kind of cool that the package kind of tells you what's going to be in it. Alternate head, alternate weapons, hands. Cool. And of course, our guy in the package. And of course, your boy Coco. Hopefully he doesn't had more breakage like he did with Slush Head. That was terrible. And you know how I glaze over Slush Head. Slush Head, such a win for me. I love me some Slush Head, except for that part when excuse me, his claws broke. Yeah, Man at Arms is one of those characters that I really, really wish I had the OG version of when I was growing up, because to me, he looked great and he was like the quintessential homie for He-Man to have, I didn't have him. But ever since then, excuse me, ever since then, I wanted to make sure that I always picked up a Man at Arms to go with He-Man every single time, because I didn't like the idea of him and never being around. So just in case they never decide to do the vintage collection, I'll at least have this. And this is a good look. The boots is a win. Modern look. I know it's not the loincloth that everybody's used to, but still kind of a good look. Yeah, so if they decide to give, I don't know if they'll go in the vintage collection, they're just gonna go straight vintage heads, no alternate heads or anything. Um, at least I'll have him be a Duncan and another guy just be a, I don't know, soldier. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Really cool. Ooh, interesting. I wonder how you put the head together. Or there you go. So if you want a different look, there you go. It's kind of cool that they have this version to the Mace club. I kind of wish that he had his gun though. Um, his pistol. That's the one thing. The one thing I really liked about the classics version, he came with a knife or like a dagger and a pistol. A missed opportunity here, in my opinion. But they probably have those weapons with other releases, so you can just, when you buy the other ones, you can just arm them up with it, right? Yeah, this is a good look. Ooh. Um, the armor on the legs, armor on the his shoulder pauldron, more reminiscent of, well, at least it's not obnoxiously big like the 2000X version, but it is uh, a little bit bigger than what it would have been in the vintage version, right? This is a good look. I love it. Here he is with He-Man. It's a good look. So yeah, let's see if what he would look like with. I'm hoping I don't break this. Right. If you wanted to go with the vintage toy look, this is that look versus the cartoon with a mustache look. But the cartoon with a mustache had more of a, if I remember correctly, a red mustache. But to be fair, it's been a while. Um, I think that the orange is a little bit different. It like doesn't match the rest of the orange for this, which is a little disappointing, but it's not hateful, as my good friend Bobby Skullface would say. I don't know how you take this bad boy out. Do you unscrew it or you just pull it out? I'm afraid of breaking it. I don't want to break nothing. so, so like, I'm just imagining you're supposed to pull. Yep, yep. You could just pull it out. Yeah, and then we could do the. There you go. Kabong. Kind of cool action. Oh, now it's a flail instead of just a mace. You know what I'm saying? And I wouldn't know these things unless I played Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons definitely taught me a little bit more about uh, ancient weapons. Well, not ancient, but you know what I'm saying? Just the old time weapons used for bludgeoning. I didn't even know what the word bludgeoning was until, I got to tell you, Dungeons and Dragons taught me a lot of different words that I would have never known. Charisma. Because that was definitely a stat. I was like, what the heck is a charisma? No, so you learn some advanced words. Now I got to tell you, the joints here are on the stiff side, which I guess is cool because better stiff than the loosey goosey hips that I got with gosh dang Beastman. You know what I'm saying? Now, he does Hulk. He-Man does Hulk over gosh dang uh, Man at Arms in this. So I don't know if you want your Man at Arms to be a little bit taller. This might you might want to wait for the vintage one. But to be fair, He-Man does have a proper, super proper A stance. So if I got him to be a little bit more in an actiony pose, and He-Man being as tall as he is in Fig makes him look so much more awkward. He kind of reminds me of jeez. He kind of reminds me of Ajax and doggone Troy, how tall he is in comparison. You know what I'm saying? He's just so big. Yeah, He-Man is my problem with He-Man is, dude, he's real hard to balance. So yeah, just trying to make him match with your boy, but dude, he's sons. he's kind of small. Now, hang on, dude. Why they make this Duncan small or short? Is it a different leg? What the? Help me out, kids. What happened here? Am I misunderstanding something? How did he get smaller? Is he supposed to be smaller? Yeah, he's definitely smaller. Because look, his he's look at this guy with bent knees, and this is straight knees, and he's Faker's clearly taller. Kind of weird. Not sure what happened. Why that happened. Let's look at. Okay, so putting him with New Eternia Zodak. Zodak did feel abnormally smaller. I wonder if. Okay, so these are New Eternia. Okay, so yeah, I guess New Eternia, Zodak, and Man at Arms make more sense in size, I guess, and height. But that doesn't make sense because Faker. I mean, I guess they're not all supposed to be the same height, but it's just kind of weird because when you're so used to seeing all of them being the same size because of the same book, it's just bizarre to see them, not. Yeah, it looks like shoot, Manny faces. Okay, I guess they do make the new Eternia guys are within the vintage collection guys. They just really dwarf people, I guess. You know what I mean? So yeah, this He-Man just seems so much bigger. So yeah, it's a good look. Now, oh man, geez, maybe it's the thighs. I guess these guys do use the same doggone legs, so I guess that makes sense, right? Just different torso, but yeah, I hope, man, if they just did a faker, not a He-Man with this exact thing, then with this kind of yeah, well, he'd be just slightly taller, not obnoxiously taller. But yeah, he towers, guys. You know what I mean? I wonder if the head can be removed here. Yes, you can. Okay, cool. That's what's up, guys. Like all these different kind of cool combinations for Duncan is a win. Now, I don't know if it just wouldn't for the sake of um the review. I'm definitely gonna give you guys the look see on on a different him with a different helmet, and you guys can tell me if which is your favorite combo of head. You know what I'm saying? Because now he looks like more cartoon, closer to cartoon accurate with this mug. You know what I'm saying? Where else? Yeah, I think yeah, the prototype head was this, if I remember correctly. But your boy Coco's memory isn't what it used to be. Too many uh, diet sodas and zero flavor. All the different chemicals that I've been exposed to. Um, and here's that combination of a head, so I can make him a generic looking soldier too. You know, when the vintage Duncan comes out, vintage Man at Arms. So yeah, so this is another alternate head. I don't know, what do you guys like the most? You know, I'm imagining that most people prefer this look because it's closer to the cartoon. You know what I mean? But if you guys were more into the toy accuracy versus the cartoon accuracy, then you definitely want this one to be the main. I don't know. I'm thinking about keeping it like this because it just feels right. I mean, I can do either or, but this just feels more right for me. I'd say. But yeah, figure overall is kind of cool. Um, he's got all the joints the way you can have a Masters of the Universe, fig do. A little bit more stiff than the others, which again I think is cool, better than to it feels like it's going to be a little bit to get to before it gets loose, which is perfect for me. You know what I mean? Because I'm afraid of things getting too loose too quick. So, but yeah, it's a good look. I think all of these is a gosh dang good look. But now I'm beginning to question the aesthetic. Like, does this guy, because of how massive he seems, He-Man looking so gosh dang huge, it might not be. They might not be. They might not match. You know what I'm saying? He just towers. But again, to be fair, nothing is supposed to be of the same height in real life. People are naturally taller or whatever, right? But again, looking at it from a toy perspective, from how you remember playing with it, how everybody was closer to being the same height. You know what I'm saying? It's a little jarring. At least for me it is. For most, I'm sure it's not. Let's just to point it out again. Let's look at how Zodak. Yeah, he just seems huge, more buff. You know. So yeah, I think kind of. Well, the good news is I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this. It's just weird to see in real life. That's all. Well, all right, folks. Well, that is all I got for this segment of Masters of the Universe, the Masterverse, New Eternia, Man at Arms. I am your host, Coco Smooth, the Casual Collector, and until the next video, folks. Ciao.